Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is a very chilling and interesting experience from the wonderful mind of PostMortem33. As ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag Team Fear. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, entitled I'm a Freemason and I have some stories to tell you. Let's get straight into that. Why would a man break the oath he had took when he became a Freemason, you might ask? Well, things have gotten pretty scary before the lockdown, and I need to leave my testimonies somewhere for the world to know what is really happening. I am sure that you, reader, have heard of a lot of conspiracies about the Freemasons, how they rule the world, and this one is true, actually. Or how they have clear proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life, or how they sacrifice goats in darkened light of their temples for the one they worship blindly, and the one that I like the most is when they run naked in the forests as part of some deluded rituals. Most of these are, of course, false claims thrown by the media in our faces just so that we can stay occupied with their imbecile discussions. However, what I have to tell you is much worse. I have seen and heard things unimaginable and in some cases unbearable for the human mind. I will not get into Masonic history, how and why it appeared, what was its initial purpose, and all those other things, because you can find that online, although some of it has been a little altered just to make them look good. I will start my story with the initiation ritual. I will not tell everything about it. If someone has a question, you can send me a DM and I will gladly answer. What happened before and after that, how I was accepted, and the sheer terror that I went through in my first visit at the temple. I will not tell you where I am from, because I can easily be found if I tell which Masonic lodge I am part of and from what country, although I am located in the southeastern central part of Europe. For the time being, I will tell you about the start of my journey, and if there are people here who are interested in hearing more, I will tell you more. For example, the story of when I ran across a rather odd version of the Bible and the crucifixion of Jesus, or the real story of the 27 Club, the actual ritual you have to perform when you want to have money, fame and talent in music, but you have to give a certain something in return to a certain someone. Or I can tell you about the moment when I was really scared when a special guest was invited into our lodge to give a Masonic lecture about, well, I will tell you some other time. And the main reason I got into Freemasonry was because one of my teachers at the Academy of Sciences I currently do research in is a Freemason, and he took a liking in me and asked me after 2 years of gaining each other's trust if I would like to be a part of the organization who has the sole purpose of bettering the world and the individual. You must excuse if some of this text sounds wrong, because English is not my main language, but I will try my best to feed your curiosities with the proper using of this beautiful language. I then asked him if this is an NGO or a research group, so that I know whom I am speaking to and what my conduct and behaviour should be when I went there. He said directly, "No, son, this is a Masonic lodge that I'm talking about. You will learn new things that not everyone can learn or know, because they must remain hidden to prying eyes. We are looking to bring in a few bright young people, such as yourself, because we are beginning to grow old and weary, and we cannot do our duties properly. I mean, son, look at me. I'm 92 years old. I could die tomorrow. I need someone to take my place, and who can that someone be other than my best student in this whole academy?" "Professor, thank you for the kind words, and I have to say that you have my full attention, and my curiosity is really big in this moment. But at the same time, I have heard throughout my life all these crazy stories about the Freemasons, so I don't know what to say. Ah, I am sure you heard about the fact that we are Satanists, or that we can talk to the devil. Am I right? Or maybe we can talk to the dead as well. Imagine if I could to Einstein right now, or to Marie Curie, Nikola Tesla, or Tartini, Beethoven, and all the greats of classical music. That would be wonderful, but it is impossible. Do I look like a Satanist to you? Do I look like a bad person, or do I sound crazy when I speak? Do I pretend that I know the secrets of alchemy? No, son. I am just a normal person, a man of science who happens to believe in God as well. I am very well known in my field and very respected, but that is because of a 70+ years of hard work and dedication that I have put in. What do you say, son? Do you want to find extraordinary knowledge? I pondered for a bit and then exclaimed, "All right, Professor, I accept your invitation for mainly 2 reasons. First one being that I have a lot of admiration and respect for you, and I really am humbled by the fact that you see me as your successor. And the other one is that I always try to improve myself and learn new things. And son, you just made a life-changing decision. Someone will call you next week to ask for your personal details, and they will tell you everything about the meeting." "Very good, Professor. I'll see you next week." I went home without very much thinking about this and just went on to my normal stuff, reading and writing articles, publishing a few of them, finishing some work, and the usual thing. The following week came and I was called by a gentleman. We met for a discussion, and he told me to be in a certain place at exactly 3:33 p.m. the next day, no earlier or later than that. This was in 2015. I went there. I was greeted by my teacher. He took me upstairs in a tiled room, where he placed a black cloth over my eyes, and then he took me to a dimly lighted small room, also known as the Chamber of Reflection, where I stayed for an hour. However, this was not a normal chamber of reflection, nor did I reflect too much. It was only later that I found out that this lodge was one of the special lodges only known by the elite of Freemasonry in the Grand Lodge of the country. In my country there are only such lodges with 9 members each. As I was sitting on the chair in the chamber of reflection, a small figure erected from a dark corner of the room. The upper body was that of a really ugly man, and with a very large beard, black eyes, a pointy nose and ears, and very yellow teeth. And what startled me was that he was standing on 2 legs that looked like they were his, and not his at the same time, because they were goat legs. My quick judgment said it was just a costume for the theatrics of the initiation, and so I went along with it. He asked me the following 3 questions, written on a piece of very old paper, for which I had to answer yes in order to go on with the ritual. Number 1. Do you believe in the one and only true great architect of the universe? Number 2. Do you wish to receive his knowledge through our ancient ways? And number 3. Do you swear to serve the Freemasons for your whole life from here on out? Then he produced a small needle, punctured one of my fingers with it, and asked me to sign that piece of paper with my finger on what was a representation of the eye of Providence drawn under those questions. I signed it. The little man exited the room, and 5 minutes later my teacher came and took me to the next part of the initiation. I entered the temple, again blindfolded. I did some not-so-cool things, like breaking stone with a hammer, drinking some sweet and sour liquids. I was half naked in my upper left part of the body, with the chest and shoulder showing. Next, I feel something really cold. It was the tip of something metallic. I figured again that it was part of the ritual. Maybe a sword, I thought. All right, I said. I love theatrics. But then something really scary happened. The master of the lodge recited the following. O he with many names, accept your newest humble servant in our brotherhood. Our master, who art fiery light and who is free in spirit, accept this new apprentice within our ranks. Apprentice, say this 3 times with all of us. Hal Jabbar, on. Hal Jabbar, on. Hal Jabbar, on. You are now reborn, apprentice. Forever through the square encompasses our 3 eternal lights. At this point, my heart was pounding, and then they took the blindfold off, and what I saw was that everyone's swords were raised, making a circle around me and just a small opening. And then it happened. Out of the corner, someone came towards me running through that opening, enraged and ready to attack me. It was clearly a gimmick, as the person was dressed like a goat with long horns. It stopped right in front of me, saw me shaking in fear, and a deep voice came from behind the mask saying,
Solve et coagula, lux et tenebrae.
Everyone chanted again, and I chanted with them. And then the figure went back to the corner, and everyone started clapping, and they started to shake my hand, one by one, greeting me. Welcome, brother. Oh, brother, you were really scared. Don't worry, this is all part of the initiation. Welcome, brother. My teacher told me afterwards that all these experiences I had here represent both good and evil parts of life, and I was reborn anew, a better person, a Freemason, and my journey is only starting. You will see the wonders of the world, son. I'm a Freemason, and I have some stories to tell you. The Pripyat Grand Lodge Visit, Part 2. Let's get straight into that. Since some of you enjoyed the first entry in this series and were eager to see new material come to life, I decided to tell you the story about my Chernobyl visit, which took place exactly 4 years ago, on the day the disaster turned exactly 30 years old. Before I start, I must tell you that this was an accident. It was not provoked by anyone, 100%. I have seen authentic documents provided by high-grade military intelligence officers in Ukraine, and they did try to cover it up, like the Soviets did back in the day. Nothing in the state's fault, and all that stuff. But when Gorbachev realized that he could not contain the disaster, he and the party decided to let the news out. You all know the story. And some of you probably read the Nobel Prize award-winning book, Voices from Chernobyl, by the Belarusian author, Svetlana Alexievich, or even saw the great series that aired on the TV, although some gruesome details were not included in the show, and so I will not go into the actual disaster story. However, I would like for everyone to hold a moment of silence for all of the brave men and women who lost their lives in that disaster, all the medical staff, the firefighters and the scientists who were capable to contain the disaster on the 4th of May, 1986. Today marks 34 years since that disaster, and let us never forget. So, let me get started with today's story. I will get back to my initiation ritual and what happened after I was made apprentice at a later stage of these stories. I will not tell them in chronological order because I want you, reader, to be surprised every single time I tell you about my experiences as a Freemason. Back in 2016, the lodge that I am still a part of received an invitation to join the meeting of our brothers in Ukraine, most specifically the Pripyat Grand Lodge, which was to be held exactly on April 26, 2016. Of course, the master and the rest of us were a bit confused because we have never been to that part of Ukraine before, and we were a bit scared because we might get irradiated, might get sick, might get eaten by mutants and things like that. After our usual meeting at the temple, the master called his counterpart in Ukraine to see exactly what this was about. Suffice to say that we all agreed to go because we did not felt only obliged, but it was a sign of respect not to refuse the invitation. About a week later, we had 3 cars come pick us up at the temple, and with the trip being just over 17 hours, we stopped and slept the night at one of our brothers' hotel in Moldova, and the next day we were near the city of Pripyat, where we were greeted by our brothers with handshakes and a triple fraternal accolades. We got acquainted and they actually prepared a tour for us to visit the surroundings of Chernobyl, where we saw Reactor 4 and the Duga-1. And then we went on to have a typical Soviet lunch like they used to have when the USSR was still a thing. Then we went to visit the ghost town and we stopped nearby the Red Forest. And we were all equipped with dosimeters and hazmat suits, of course. While we were near in the Red Forest, our Ukrainian brothers told us that we will go somewhere to have our meeting, and then we will go to sleep in a secret hotel that only the Masons know about. After this, military personnel pulled in front of us and escorted us to an underground bunker near the Red Forest. And we descended to a 3rd floor of the facility where we had the meeting. Our master had a speech and vice versa. After the meeting ended, we went on having a normal brotherly banquet. However, this is where things started getting strange. The food was nothing like I'd ever seen before. The wine had multiple colours at the same time, and there were some sautéed mushrooms that were a phosphorescent green, similar to hygroscybe virescens. The meats were very tasty even though they looked really overcooked. On the inside they were very tender. The potatoes were turquoise and the fish were a very pale pink with crimson tails. And me? I was sitting over there thinking, is this real food or are they joking? Are we supposed to eat the damn rainbow in here? But the most interesting thing was the tea that they served at the end. The hot tea was smelling like hot summer mornings, then changing to the smell of petrichor, then to the freezing smell of snow. It was like all seasons were trapped in that cup of tea. We were of course a little bit scared to eat the food, but our brothers told us there is nothing to be worried about, as this is some ultra rare foods. Only 333 people in the world know of its existence. And after we finished, the master of the Pripyat Lodge raised his glass. "Drink this final glass of wine, my brothers, and let me lead you to see the greatest secret of Chernobyl. You will now meet Vov Kulaka." Then we went to the 5th floor where there was just a cage. Inside it there was a man. "Help me, please. They've got me trapped in here." Of course, I was absolutely outraged and I whispered to my professor, "What is this nonsense, Professor? Why did they torment a man like that?" And even though I whispered, the master heard me and said, "You know I speak your language, right? I know how this looks like, but I can assure you that shortly something will change the way you see this man. It will happen." Then he started chanting some Latin phrases and threw some liquid on the man, and then claws started growing out of the tips of his fingers, hair growing everywhere. His clothes were slowly tearing apart. The man seemed to be turning into something else, something not of this world, something unholy, evil, and unnatural. Soon razor-like teeth started erecting from his mouth. His eyes turned a dark shade of crimson red. His metamorphosis was complete, and the man was no longer a man, but a huge, monstrous type of wolf. "Mortals, one day I will escape this prison, and I will kill you all. Mark my words. You had me confined for the last 400 years,
since that day where I tore apart your lands. I will escape someday. I will end this world in blood and fire."
I was absolutely petrified. I stood still for the next 10 minutes or so. My teacher was as calm as they come, meaning that this was something usual for him, and I was left wondering how many horrors are in this world, what things exist here, what darkness lives on this earth with us. The master took out another liquid, threw it onto the creature, and it started shrieking, letting out sounds not of this world. After that, it turned to the man again, and we left. I'm still in shock, I asked, almost crying.
"What was that? Why don't you just kill it?"
The master, looking disapprovingly at me, said that this was an 850-year-old werewolf, and since his capture, the Masons have been trying relentlessly to alter his mind using certain substances, which I know nothing about, and make more creatures like this, eventually turning them into armies for future wars. Yes, I know that we have all of this technology now, and we could make robots and whatnot, but these guys, they have a lot of secrets. If they have kept him for so long, it must have been a very valuable thing to them. Maybe immortality, who knows? After this, we sort of fainted and then woke up the next morning in a hotel which did not look like a hotel, but like an apartment building that felt like it was constantly moving. And no, I wasn't hungover. On the table in my room, I found a note saying that they wish us a great trip back home, thanking us for accepting the invitation and hoping that we can meet again sooner rather than later. Also, there was a bottle of that tea wrapped as a present, and to this day, I never opened it. Until next time, stay safe and take care, reader. I'm a Freemason, and I have some stories to tell you. The Church of Ghosts, Part 3. Let's get straight into that. Today's story will take us back to 2018, when we had an international meeting which is taking place every 5 years. And by now, I was used to all the weird stuff going on inside of our temple, and of course, outside of it, where the secrets of the world lay dormant for the normal people, but not for us Freemasons. Our meeting 2 years ago took place in a very beautiful hotel in Prague, the Czech Republic, and this was one of those that are filled with history, and where the walls and chandeliers have seen extravagant parties taking place, and people in really expensive clothing attending and drinking the finest and rarest of drinks. I have met a lot of powerful Freemasons at the banquet, and people very well known in the world, and some of them running multi-million-dollar companies. I have learned of lots of things that they do research on, things I could not even imagine existed, and of course I was left in awe with the topics of certain discussions at that party. I was accompanied by my mentor, the professor, who decided in 2014, as you well know, to show me the wonders of the world. And too bad that we have different views on what that means. Usually, at banquets like these, nothing out of the ordinary really happens. It's mainly just a bunch of people in black suits talking about various scientific topics, improvements in certain industries and/or evolution of technology in the coming years. But at the end of the party, my mentor took me outside the hotel to have a talk. "Son, let's go out for a bit, and there is something I need to tell you." "Of course, Professor." "Son, tomorrow at midnight there is a place where we will go, and from our lodge it is just the two of us and the master. And there will be some very powerful and influential people at this meeting." "What is it this time, Professor? Vampires? Czech monsters? The dark god of Czech beer? What?" "You're very funny," he said ironically. "No, We will have this meeting in a church 200 kilometers from Prague, in the village of Lukova. And as I understood from one of our brothers that flew in from the United Kingdom, this church is a bit different from the rest of the churches in the country. Why? I do not know. I guess we will see tomorrow night what is going to happen. Okay, Professor. I understand and I won't ask any more questions. Sometimes I like to inquire a lot about things because I am a very curious person, as you know.
Be careful, son. Curiosity killed the cat.
But satisfaction brought it back, Professor. The party ended and we went to sleep. We woke up the next day and went for a walk in the beautiful city of Prague. And by the way, reader, I have to tell you that the Czechs have, without a single shade of a doubt, the best beer in Europe. We went to see the St. Vitus Cathedral, the Charles Bridge, the astronomical clock, the Kingsky Palace, the Prague Castle, and the Old Town Square. And these were the wonders of the world to me. And we, of course, got to see the hidden parts of each and every location, parts that the public was not allowed to see, because of course, that's how things are supposed to be, in the opinion of the Freemasons. We then went back to the hotel, changed in our usual black suit, black tie attire, took our aprons and gloves, and we went outside the hotel about 9 p.m. to meet the driver who would take us to the church. And we got there around 11:30 p.m., and that left us with 30 minutes of free time in which a brother from the Czech Republic told us the story of the church. The St. George Church was built in 1352, but in 1968 the roof collapsed during a funeral. So it was very much abandoned up until an artist decided to make things more interesting in 2014 by adding mouldings of people on top of which he placed some sheets to make them look like ghosts praying. And Brother Hynek went on, "Dear brothers, let's go inside. But before that, there is a table here at the entrance. Please, each and every one of you take one of these metal blocks and keep it with you until the meeting is finished. Welcome to the Church of Ghosts." The master, the professor, and I looked at each other wondering what these were for. And we proceeded on, taking the metals, which were weighing roughly 500 grams each, and they were, of course, triangle in shape. We went inside, and we were a little startled by the silhouette standing still in the darkness. And then our Czech brothers rapidly lighted some candles, and we got to sit down next to the figures. I was a bit uneasy because I don't really like being alone in a church at night, even more when the church is old and creepy and filled with mouldings that resemble people. The master of the Prague Lodge stated, "Dear brothers, welcome to one of the most exquisite meeting places for people like us. I hope you all had a great time at the party yesterday and got to see our beautiful capital city. Please place each of your metals into the lap of the moulding next to you and leave it there until we finish this meeting." And then, of course, we started having speeches. After half an hour or so after midnight, all the candles went out and a cold wind started to blow inside the church. The floor was creaking and a very thick fog started raising from under it. And then I felt something moving beside me. I turned to my right side and the head of a ghost was turned towards me, staring at me with its non-existent eyes. I screamed, "Ah!" And then a voice from out of time began. "Brothers, dear brothers, do not be afraid. We come in peace. We are the Freemasons of the Grand Lodge from beyond time. And we have been here for many eons, silently watching you to see if you are doing your jobs properly. And we could not be prouder than we are right now. Greetings to everyone who came from different parts of the world. We are very happy that you are with us tonight." And then another one stated, "Brothers, you will experience something tonight that you never experienced before. Please place your hands on our foreheads and let us take you to a journey of magic throughout time." The thing is that the voices were speaking in the Czech language, a language I know nothing about, but curiously enough, I was understanding it perfectly at that certain place and time. I placed my hand on the ghost's forehead, and at that point I felt like I was enlightened and filled with a secret knowledge. And with my eyes closed, I could see through different historical periods. I was in a forest where strange animals were living. And then I was transported under the sea to populations of humanoids living free. Their technological advancements, not like anything I have ever seen before. I have seen kings and queens, empires falling, kingdoms of long-forgotten dead gods, ruins of cities in the sky, strange civilizations visiting our planet. But then everything stopped, and a man with a white hood on his head, a large staff in his hand, and a grey beard stood in front of me, in a tent in the desert.
"Hello, traveller. Give me your hand."
I did so, without even questioning him. Then he took out a very strange object. It was like a red-hot stone, almost like a coal, but not quite, and placed it in my hand. I squeezed it, and when I opened my hand, all that was left was a red light floating around in my palm. I looked at him with big inquiring eyes, and then he took out from the bag in his pocket a very odd powder. And then he placed the powder inside the red floating light, and with his scepter smashed it, yelling,
"Tria prima!"
And a large explosion took place. It knocked me over, but it did not hurt me. I awakened some minutes, well, at least for me, later in the church with my hand extended, and in my hand there was the metal block, but its colour had changed. It was golden. Of course, I could not believe my eyes. My mind was already buzzing with all that I had seen in my short journey. "Brothers, vivat alchimia! This is a gift to you. Please be careful on your future journeys and take this gold home with you as a way to always remember your experience here tonight. So long, dear brothers." I checked my watch. It said 6:30 a.m. I looked at the gold triangle. On it was the representation of the exact same ball of light I held in my palm of my hand. The sun came up in the sky, and everything was back to normal. We went back to Prague, none of us saying anything for the next few hours. We just sat there frozen and bewildered by the magical gold in our hands. Not only the wonders of the world, but the riches of the world. I'm a Freemason, and I have some stories to tell you. The Horror at Hoya Forest, Part 4. Let's get straight into that. I used to be one of those people who did not believe in the supernatural, monsters, demons, vampires, and all the things that should not be. However, for the past 6 years, I have been constantly proven wrong, and I was shown by forces beyond my reach and understanding that we are not alone. We were never alone, and we will never be alone. I have seen things that can churn your stomach, that can make your heart stop beating, or even question your existence. And this time, I will not tell you about one of my vacations that I will never forget, and that I wish I could take back. But as you may well know from the stories you have read so far, strange things seem to follow me since I have become a Freemason. No matter what happened, I always managed to stay lucid and keep my composure until the very end of these strange occurrences. For us Freemasons, summers are usually off, and we do not have any kind of official gatherings. However, we do meet like friends in the white meetings, as we call them. We just eat foods and drink wine like normal people. I have had many of those, some of them really pleasant, because you get to talk to some good people about great things. But there were also evil people there as well, and so it's kind of a battle with the forces of good and evil. Some of them want evil to reign supreme, and some just want to destroy every vile thing that the Freemasons stand for. Their temple of lies will fall one day, and their false god will burn in the purging fires of all that should protect us. Last summer, before this whole crazy pandemic happened. I also have a story on this as well, but it will come at a later stage. I do not want to scare you more than you are right now, reader. Well, we were invited by some Freemasons friends to spend a few days on a lovely property just a bit outside of the city of Napoca in Romania. A very beautiful city indeed. Great food, great people, and you should visit if you have the chance. Most of us have regular 9-to-5 jobs, of course, and so we decided we should spend a weekend there. Booked a flight and we got there in about an hour on a Friday night. The property was filled with one-room, little houses, so that all brothers could relax and rest good. We went in, we made ourselves comfortable, changed to a casual attire, and went outside to socialize. The property was placed in the heart of nature, far away from inquiring eyes. I was surrounded by a thick forest called the Hoya. Its trees were very oddly bent, like they had seen the horrors of the world, and behind it a river was rapidly streaming away into the silence of the night. I am a really big fan of barbecue, so it was my idea to not go to a restaurant in the city. Instead, we should have a nice barbecue done at the property by ourselves, because it would give us a better vibe given the whole rustic scenery. Everyone agreed and we proceeded on lighting the thing up. Well, after a few hours or so, when we were almost ending our small party, we heard screaming voices echoing from the woods. Unaware of the dangers we will face later on, so me and 4 other brothers took our flashlights and decided to go and see where the screaming was coming from. I was scared to see what terrors the night will bring upon us, because the things we faced in the past were absolutely horrifying. As we delved deeper into the forest, after what seemed and felt like almost an eternity, not knowing what fate we will have, we were starting to get closer to the source of the screaming. As we were approaching, we started seeing the river, and on its edge there was a woman wearing a white dress that seemed to be made of clouds, almost vaporous. And then she turned. Her face, it was the whitest white I have ever seen. Her eyes were so dark that they could have looked straight into your soul, leaving you petrified as a statue. The most scariest part was that on her face was what appeared to be some sort of black blood dripping down from her eyes. She started coming at us hastily, and so we started running, but when we turned around, another 4 women were standing mid-air, floating and watching down upon us, almost like they were the hunter and we were the hunted. The creatures of the night needed to feed. I know some of the Eastern European legends, and so, given that we were in Romania, I remembered hearing stories of the so-called Iv'e, which were spirits of tormented women who only wanted to prey on men, making them go absolutely insane. The legend says that you must not speak to them or say their name, and so they started singing and dancing in circles around us. 2 brothers started crying in absolute fear, and the rest of us were just mesmerized by them. And then, like touched by grace, I snapped out of it and yelled, "Do not look at them and close your eyes!" Said and done, except for one of our brothers. His gaze could not turn away from the spirits, and then one came closer to him. "Would you come with us, handsome?" she said, slowly caressing his face. "Yes, I want to," he said, not even finishing his sentence. They raised him up into the air, and then he disappeared with them into the depths of the dark forest. "No!" I yelled. "Brothers, snap out of it! We have to go after him!" We started running like madmen, not knowing where we were going or what fate awaited us. We started searching, looking for houses in the forest, for lights, for a single trace of our brother. And before we knew it, morning had come. The first rays of sun shining shyly, almost afraid to enter the forest. After our searches came to no avail, we found our way back to the houses and decided to rest for a couple of hours before going back to the woods. We were severely dehydrated and frightened, to our very bones. As we were approaching the property, the rest of our brothers were outside, waiting.
"Hey guys, we're back! You will not believe what happened to us!"
we yelled collectively, almost running out of breath. And they all stepped aside, revealing our lost brother sitting in a chair and with his head lowered, and his physical appearance was changed. His hair turned white, he looked like he had lost 20 pounds, and he was almost a vegetable. He could not speak, all he was doing was to mumble incoherently. And we told them what happened, and they were in shock, but they also knew what horrors live with us in places where we, humans, should not go, and they completely understood the grave situation we were in. We all decided to stay for a few more days, and we called the ambulance, and we invented a story about how he had woke up like that because, well, we obviously could not say the real story. And then they took him to the local psychiatric hospital for tests, where he still resides confined to this very day. After a few days passed, the doctor called one of us and the diagnostic was severe schizophrenia combined with dementia. The doctor told us that our brother always has hallucinations about 5 women that try to take him away from the hospital. Some other times he starts dancing by himself in a padded room. Brother, I am sorry we could not save you. Truly sorry. I am a Freemason, and I have some stories to tell you. Tragedy at Strigoi, Part 5. Let's get straight into that. In our private library, we have millions of documents and tomes from throughout different times in history, since the beginning of man. Superb poems, prose, ancient scrolls describing amazing events that happened in history, and some of them not even known by man. I was mostly interested in finding writings about the Eastern European folklore, although many of the experiences that I have had in the past made me realize that many legends were in fact as real as the moon hanging lifeless in the night sky. As I was looking for something to feed my mind with, a strange brown leather sort of journal fell down from one of the shelves. I went to pick it up, and I noticed that it was a normal journal about village life in Wallachia in the 15th century. However, some pages describe something horrible. November 30th, 1437 AD. The Black Hill Village, Wallachia. The Diary of Janos Shira. It is now 3 weeks since I have seen my brother. I do not know what happened to him, how or why he disappeared. I found a small pool of blood in his room the morning following his disappearance, and since then something has changed in the village. Something evil was beginning to make its presence known. The air was changing. It was starting to feel very heavy at night. A mysterious mist was slowly enshrouding the city under the dead eyes of the moon. And people started disappearing regularly, almost every week, their screams echoing in the night. Doors were bolted shut, garlic was hanging outside every house now, and slowly the village was turning into a graveyard. I decided to hold a meeting with the rest of my companions at the Lodge of Eternal Light, so that we could see if we could discover what was going on, and if it can be stopped, the evil cut clean at its root. Brothers, I have called you here tonight to put an end to this insanity. Something is taking away the village folk, and it is our duty to make sure that this has an end. Have any of you seen anything out of the ordinary lately, besides the obvious screams and bad omens floating around the village? Brother John, you may speak.
Yes, sir. Last night I was doing my nocturnal round on the streets, and I felt some presence walking behind me when I was turning corners. Its steps doubling mine, and every time I turned, no one was there. And so I started running to see if it still followed me, and I heard its footsteps running after me. I turned my head for a second, and when I turned it forward again, an unnatural shape was standing in front of me, and it said to me, "Mortal, I will eat your soul and drink your life right here and now.
Standing in fear, I started praying to God, while the thin silhouette was laughing mockingly as tears were falling down my cheeks.
Do you think your petty God will help you? Do you think a faceless, cruel God cares for a pest like you humans, who know only to kill each other in meaningless, violent, and endless wars?
Your God is dead, and heaven is burning. Then how are you still alive, John? How did the creature look like? I asked. My only salvation was this little bottle of holy water which I threw in his face, and the silver cross I got out and pointed it like a weapon towards him. He started shrieking and hissing, covering his eyes at the sight of the cross. Sir, the creature was thin, very pale, its eyes an evil shade of red. He had claws, and its mouth was bloody. His teeth, they were sharp, and he was bald. He was a living dead, a creature risen from the grave in the night, only to consume human flesh and blood. This was a thing of evil, sir. A strigoi! We must find it where it sleeps and kill it, sir. And we must do it quickly, or there will be more deaths. I understand. Thank you, John. Every one of us in the room stood aghast at the hearing of such troublesome news. We never experienced anything like this, and we were not prepared for a battle like this. We heard about the strigoi from the elders of the village, but we did not take it as true. We knew we needed stakes, torches, silver crosses, holy water, and cloves of garlic. Now I knew my brother was killed by this vile, sickening monster, and I swore to avenge him, even if it meant that I had to give away my own life. The plan was to trap the monster in the village square, and so we drew a large circle with a flammable material so that we could light it up by shooting an arrow from the roof. And 2 of our brothers offered themselves as bait for the strigoi. Night came, and our brothers waited in the middle of the circle, looking like they were repairing something as not to give away the plan. We had men standing on top of roofs ready to show the arrows, while I was waiting patiently in a corner, ready for the attack. In the silence of the night that seemed eternal, a figure appeared behind one of our brothers in the circle, enraged with madness. And before an arrow was shot, our brother was ripped to shreds. The other one tried to fight the demon, but before raising his sword, rivers of blood started flowing from his neck, and with the strigoi feeding and yelling like a demented beast. His hunger blinded him, and he realized very late that he was trapped. I rushed inside the fiery circle. I threw holy water onto him, and vapors rose from where the water touched him. I placed the silver cross on his head, and as he was turning and screaming, I wanted to kill him with my silver knife. But as I tried putting it through his head, the creature raised its hand and blocked it, the blade going right through, and blood started coming down. He saw a small opening in the circle and made a run for it, slowly vanishing into the night, leaving a bloody trail behind. I yelled at my men to follow the trail, with me leading them. 5 hours later, tired and with almost no energy left in us, we arrived at the entrance of a cave. The sun came up in the morning sky as we entered the cave, and we saw the shape of a coffin. "We found its resting place. Men, take the coffin out and take the lid off," I yelled. Inside, the creature lay dormant, not being aware that it was nearing its end. Its hideous apparition, the vile aura surrounding him, the miasma coming out from inside the coffin, made us all retch. As I was preparing to put my knife through its head, I noticed a piece of paper. I took it out and started reading it. If you are reading this, then I am probably nearing an end that I have been waiting for the past 120 years of relentlessly haunting and hunting in these lands. I was turned to a strigoi against my will and I wish I could take back all the destruction and suffering I have brought onto this world. My name was Simeon, but now I have no name. The living dead bear no names. As I turned the paper, on the back of it the following was written. The silent songs of death now echo through this freezing crypt. I only wish to rest now, so please end me in my sleep. I am the living dead and I cannot stop the urge to kill, because my hunger makes me do things far beyond my will. Now leave me here to rot forever, dead and torn apart. Just turn my head backwards and impale my broken heart. I'm a Freemason, and I have some stories to tell you. Meeting a Prince of Hell. Part 6. Let's get straight into that. This is one of the most horrifying stories I will tell you. Well, at least for me. A couple of years after I was made Mason, there'd been talks about a secret meeting with only a very small number of brothers invited. Nobody knew what it was about, because the brothers received some very peculiar letters from a Grand Master whose name was unknown to us. We were all wondering what this was about and why nobody knows anything about what will happen at the meeting. My letter stated the following. Dear brother, you are hereby invited to attend the secret grand reunion of the Black Light Lodges, which is to be held at the Crimson Temple on the 23rd of April 2017, starting at 6 p.m. This will be a unique experience for you, because a meeting like this happens only once every 500 years. You have been selected as one of the 23 brothers to attend this meeting due to your fast rising to stardom inside our organization. Please do not have precious metals, religious objects/artifacts, watches or money with you, and dress only in black. Do not bring your apron and gloves with you, as you will be given a very special set upon your arrival at the temple. Thank you for taking part in what will be the event of your lifetime. With admiration, IMSLH, Annalai Morst. I made dozens of phone calls, emails, text messages to some of the most influential Masons in Europe. No one knew who the master that sent us the letter was. All they knew is that he was real, and we must not miss the meeting, or else we will be burned between the columns. And this is a procedure Freemasons only use in extreme cases, when a brother has done something so bad that their presence is no longer wanted inside the Masonic temple, and the consequences can be very bad. A few days passed, and the big moment came. Some of the most powerful Masons in Europe were present, and that thing made me ask myself why I was chosen to be here. And clearly no one knew me as well, as I was a very discreet presence, and I did not want to be a rock star inside the Masonic temple. And so much so that the professor was not invited at this meeting, and I could not get a hold of him that day, meaning I was left prisoner to many questions as to why I ever accepted becoming a Mason in the first place. I know some of you think that to be a Mason, you have to ask a Mason. But what you do not know, or did not know until now, is that the lodge that I am in is very different than the regular ones. The rules of admittance are different, the clothing is different, and the rituals differ so much. Anyway, the meeting was about to start and we all formed a queue outside waiting to enter the temple. I was the last one to go in, and would have thought that the master who was taking charge of the ceremony would be late because I haven't seen him outside. And so I was surprised to see a very big man, a person that of course looked human, a normal person, taking helm of the meeting. Welcome, brothers. We will begin shortly. And before we do, I know that there are some of you who want to give speeches before I have the final input, so please go ahead. Well, nothing out of the ordinary at this point. 3 brothers had speeches on their lives and times in the Freemasons during the Spanish Inquisition. The second one was about a more esoteric field, white magic versus black magic, and the last one was about how, in his opinion, we could bring people back from the dead. Well, this guy was a scientist working in a secret military compound in the Carpathian Mountains. His eye was twitching when he was speaking, and he was thoroughly convinced that everything he was saying was achievable. I decided not to judge because of all the crazy things I have gone through. I mean, right now, bringing people back from the dead was another topic that the Freemasons could successfully experiment on. After everyone finished, we tapped the floor, as we usually do because we are not allowed to applause. Thank you, brothers, for your wonderful inputs, and also I do believe that it is just a matter of fact until you will be able to use black magic inside our temple as a way of protection against the one who wants us destroyed. Now. At this point, all the candles in the room then turned a purple flame, while the man raised himself from the seat, and he then let out a diabolical chant. "Infernal lights, show them my truest form." And then, he transformed so fast that one might say the man was never there. I will try telling you, reader, how this demon looked like, although I feel a sense of dread and my hands are sweaty and shaking just by thinking about it. The demon had 2 lateral horns that went sideways from where its ears should have been. He had 2 additional horns starting from his forehead and going back. His eye sockets were 2 bright flames, and while his mouth was breathing steam between those sharp fangs that it had. Its whole body was engulfed in flames, and where its stomach should have been, it was only a black, infinite darkness, with the tormented screaming of lost souls coming out. His torso was somewhat like a huge bloody mouth with one eye in its center, an eye that was moving rapidly up and down and side to side, like it was searching for something, searching for another soul to add to its ever-growing collection. The demon held a fiery trident in his hand like claws, and then it hit the floor with it, producing a hot wave that made us all feel instantly like we were in the pits of hell. A diabolical voice then started.
"Brothers, courageous brothers, I only come to you once every 500 years. Rejoice, rejoice. I am Mammon, one of the several princes of hell, your second leader after his infernal majesty. The letter you all received was sent by him, and he picked the ones with the greatest potential to do his bidding. I will now pick 3 of you, and I will grant you a few wishes each. And so, Brother Nerus, Brother Sarin, and Brother Yiman, come forward. But know this, nothing is free in this life, so be careful what you ask for. I can only give material wealth or things that can produce it, and that is it."
I thought at this point, being absolutely petrified with horror, almost wet in my pants. Why would you wish something so insignificant as money? Your life is short as it is, and this gift, it's not free.
"Brother Nerus, speak. What does your heart desire most?"
Majesty, I would like to be the owner of the most powerful bank in the world, and to gradually become the richest man that has ever lived on Earth.
"So be it. This will cost you 15 years of your life. A fair trade, I might say,"
said the demon.
"Brother Sarin, you?"
I wish to own an island. I want a fleet of the most expensive cars in the world, huge mansions, business that makes hundreds of millions of dollars, and I want my family to have money for 200 generations from now without the risk of ever going bankrupt."
"Very well. 30 years of your life is the price. This means you only have 40 more years to live, and then you will come and live with us deep down in hell. Brother Yiman, you're the last one, and this better be good."
Master, I wish to own all the gold in the world. I wish to have trillions of dollars. I wish I could buy off everything. I wish that my money could feed the greed machine of humanity and... Before finishing, the demon yelled,
Silence! We have a non-believer here with us, an intruder, a false brother, someone who wants us destroyed. You, over there.
He pointed towards me, and I was absolutely sure that he will cast me to hell for all eternity.
Are you a true Mason or not?
Yes, of course I am. With all my body, mind and soul. I am here to serve our Lord until the end of my life, said I, absolutely horrified, but very sure on my words as to not induce even more uncertainty in this ugly demon.
Then, if your claims are true, answer me this riddle. I must warn you, it is very hard, and if you do not know the correct answer, the skeletons guarding the door will immediately tear you apart.
All right, I'm listening, Master, said I, almost shaking, my knees like marshmallows.
What do you call somebody with no body and no nose?
Said the demon, almost bursting into laughter. Well, shit, I thought. Nobody knows? I answered. And then he started laughing like crazy.
Jesus Christ. I mean Satan. Sorry. You should have seen the look on your face. Holy shit. I was just fooling around, goddamn. I haven't had a good laugh like this in 500 years. Huh. Thank you. Brother, you are excused. You may return to your seat.
I turned around thinking, I almost pissed myself, and this beast is in the mood for stupid jokes. Although, I wonder, why did he pick me specifically? And did they watch me? Did they see me as a traitor? Or it was just a random choice? And then he returned to asking Brother Yeoman to finish his request. And I wish money would rule the world forever and ever.
Very well. This will cost you your very soul, and you will pay your debt in the future, not now. But you will not know when. You will only hear distant growls and barking in the distance. Know then the end is near. Brothers, it has been my pleasure. I must return home, where I will send your regards to the rest of the princes of hell. It has been a pleasure, and we will keep on watching you. I will see you soon down there. So long.
Then he vanished into thin air, and everyone stood silent. The three lucky brothers started hugging one another like they'd won everything and lost nothing. The greed of mankind is ever present in the weak minds and lost souls. Wow. Awesome stuff there from the wonderfully talented PostMortem33. Again, thank you ever so much for letting me narrate your work on the show. And I do look forward to covering more of your work in the future. Hopefully there's more from this series too. I know a lot of listeners have requested that there be more, or that you continue your work, so we do look forward to more from you. Guys and girls, as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help with the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag Team Fear. Of course, if you have a story you'd like to share with us here on the show, whether it's true or fictional, please do get that over to my email, which of course is dmtforesterfear@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. As always, guys, I hope you're safe and well, and are trying to stay as positive as possible, and are looking forward to a late summer celebration as much as I. But above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.